What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
All right, it is interesting to be seeing this show on a different day on a Tuesday night. I think I'm going to make this another regular day of the week to be doing the show. Welcome here to the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. We are live in the 702 in all different social media broadcasts, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, and of course the Twitter Periscope is where you can follow me on all social media platforms. You can also end up liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell button for all of the latest shows, highlights, and news updates at the one network that's got you covered on all sports. That's the Spotlight Sports Network, and of course the Snake Sports Talk Show. Man, I got a lot up on my mind, and again, I think I might make Tuesday night a regular for me. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to tell you what is all up on my mind. I hope all of you are having a great night, and I hope all of you guys are having a great week ahead as well. We know for a fact it's Thanksgiving week, so I hope all of you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the time with your friends and family. We know that these times are unprecedented, and there's just so much that's going on, but I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to be here with me tonight. I've got a lot to sum up of this week. So let me just start with this. Last night's game was exciting, and I thought it was entertaining. I was live streaming the broadcast with my really good colleague, Darian Hopkins of the Spotlight Raiders Talk. You can subscribe and look up all of his content. We did a great job Monday night. But that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Rams definitely getting the job done against Tom, against Bruce Arians, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's a few takeaways that I have up on this game. Okay, first and foremost, I thought both defenses showed up this week. I mean, you got the Rams with Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, Jalen Ramsey, and not to mention Darius Williams, and a lot of really good defensive secondaries for the Rams. Then you also had the Buccaneers. Jason Pierre-Paul had a bunch of knockdowns. He had a pick, and Antoine Winfield had a big-time hit. So both defenses showed up. The difference makers was the offense. And I thought the Rams offense did a fabulous job. Jared Goff did make a couple mistakes, but he was clean. He was hardly ever touched by that Tampa defense, but they did provide a lot of pressures. Not going to lie. But Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods were the difference makers in that game. Both of them with 10-plus catches. And Jared Goff, here was what was crazy about this game. The Tampa Bay defense stopped the run game all game long. They couldn't run the football. Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Cam Akers. Only Cam Akers had a touchdown, but it was more on the pass, not on the run. And they stopped the run game all night long. And it forced a guy like Jared Goff, who nobody appreciates, nobody respects here in this, in football. He's a franchise quarterback. He is the Rams franchise quarterback. You forced him to throw 51 times in that game. No run game. The run game was stopped, and it forced him to throw 51 times. But I'll make the argument, I think Cooper Kupp is one of the most underrated wide receivers in this game. And with the performance that he put up, and Robert Woods also, Woods did come away with a score. Listen, my takeaway of this is they got rid of Brandon Cooks, who Brandon Cooks is just nothing but injury prone. He's also very much concussion prone, and they didn't miss him one bit. They got a lot of offensive weaponries. Now, the run game's very questionable, but Jared Goff is capable of throwing it. And by the way, he's stayed healthy since being a starter in this league. There's no argument there. He's a franchise quarterback, and Sean McVay, it was like a compatible match meant to be. I know a lot of people are fond of that, and not a lot of people can agree highly on both of them, but I'll make the argument Goff needed McVay, and McVay needed Goff. They're very compatible. And that Rams offense last night, they got it done, regardless of how many times Goff had to throw because the run game was not great. But let me make this argument here. Tampa Bay's offense did not look comfortable. Tom Brady, okay, the first half stats were slow, but then the second half was worse. And this is one of the issues, and these are one of the worries I have about Tampa Bay's offense. This has nothing to do about Antonio Brown. This has nothing to do about Tom Brady or any of this. But I look at Bruce Arians today, and the only thing that scares me about Tampa is loaded with offense. They're loaded with receivers. They're loaded with running backs. They're loaded with tight ends. And I'll make the argument the offensive line, yeah, they still have a few adjustments to make, but man, they got crushed last night. They could not hold Aaron Donald down. They couldn't even hold Michael Brockers down. And the secondaries, I'll make the argument, Jalen Ramsey was probably one of the best acquisitions the Rams ever got. He is highly energetic, big-time athlete, and he covers a lot of ground. But Tom Brady last night, he looked so uncomfortable in that pocket, and the second half was terrible by Tampa Bay. And they did not get that job done, regardless of the offense. Listen, Tom Brady's been in this league long enough. He's dealt with pressures. I'll give you one example. Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, they have a ton of offense. OBJ, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Austin Hooper, and a run game with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. You got to make plays happen. And at the same time, you got an offensive line. The Cleveland Browns fixed their problems at tackles. They got two of them in the free agency and also in the draft. There's no excuses from there. But the difference is Tom is a little better in he's a little better in pressures. Baker's not. Baker is highly pressured in pressures. That's why he can't get the football out of his hands quick enough, and he can't execute on the passes. That's why Kevin Stefanski limits his time in the pocket and limits his time on the throw. He relies so much upon the run game. That's what's Cleveland's success. But last night, Tom Brady was pressured. Tom Brady made a couple mistakes. But were they really on Tom Brady? Or was it because of the coaching staff with Bruce Arians, who is a reckless guy, that he likes to throw the air balls? Remember, you're talking about a guy at 43 years old, does not have so much on that air ball throw like when you watch Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray or Justin Herbert. But Tom Brady, not a whole lot of protection, and things looked miscommunicated. And it didn't even matter who was all up on the field. They're all playmakers. They all have a role. But Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, the defense looked great, but the offense could not even pick it up. And that's what's going to scare me about Tampa. Now, I know this season was not going to be easy for Tampa Bay. They had no practice. They had no OTAs. And, of course, the pandemic was a big hit. But at the same time, they've tried to work hard to make this offense click. I thought the offense was clicking in the last couple of weeks. But after those two matchups against their own division rivals, the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans has their number. And mind you, Drew Brees is out for a couple weeks. They started with Taysom Hill. Man, did Taysom look great. I had concerns and I had reservations on Taysom Hill. But if Tampa Bay's offense plays like that again, that's going to scare me with what I think about Tampa Bay's offense and how I feel about them as a team moving forward. Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator, and I think he's going to get a shot as a head coach again. He could coach that defense, but that offense just did not pick it up. And when people look at it between the Rams and Sean McVay, McVay is a big-time playmaker. I had somebody up on the comments telling me that it's not all McVay controlling. I'm not asking for McVay to control. I'm asking for McVay to have a game plan set, because eventually Jared Goff is going to execute those plays. And yeah, he threw it 51 times. But the Rams looked better on offense. They looked better on defense. And the Tampa, all they had was their defense was working well. But their offense just looked pressured. And that's the kind of worry that I have for Tampa Bay moving forward. I still think they're a good team, but the question's in the air of if they're really a playoff threat. I don't know about that, but I'm going to guarantee you this. If I see another pressure game like that again out of Tampa Bay's offense, that's going to worry me much. All right, let me shift to this, because I had this stuck on my mind all day long, and I've been summing this up for this whole year, maybe even dating back to last year. But there are teams out there who are very comfortable with their quarterbacks. Kansas City, Arizona, the Chargers, Buffalo, I think, is comfortable with their quarterback. The Rams, Jared Goff, as I mentioned. There are a small amount of teams who are comfortable with their quarterbacks. Right now, the teams that kind of have question marks about their quarterbacks. That's the New York Jets with Sam Darnold, and right now the Philadelphia Eagles with Carson Wentz. They do not, they're having a lot of concerns with Carson Wentz. Philadelphia, this football team has had numerous injuries. They've had numerous bad breaks, and it doesn't seem like Carson Wentz is making the right decisions. Now, the question holds, is that all the quarterback's fault, or is that from the coaching staff of Doug Peterson and in company? Because let me just tell you this. I love Carson Wentz, but there are times where he can play reckless. And sometimes that's not good, especially when you have a team who's banged up on the offensive line, who's banged up with his offensive weaponries, especially at wide receivers, and you're playing lawn chairs for wide receivers just to make the playoffs like you did last year, and you upsetted Dallas in that division. And that division is not the strongest. It's the worst division in the NFL, because Dallas right now, they overpay. They pay for the wrong players. Dak Prescott's out for the year. And right now, this is probably one of the most expensive, worst franchises in the NFL. Then you also got the Giants, who I'll make an argument. That's probably the best, worst team right now I'm seeing in the NFL at 3-7. Joe Judge can coach this team, a special teams coach. My concern was the Giants, the defense was going to be a big, huge question mark. I wasn't sure how the team was going to perform. I knew the offense and Daniel Jones had a lot of potential, but I did not expect this. I think Joe Judge can coach well. I think what they need to do is they need to eliminate the fumbles. They've got to eliminate the fumbles. What's going on, Keith? Thank you so much for joining in. But I think if they get this right, this Giants team is going to be very, very tough to play against. And Washington, I don't know what they're going to deal with their quarterbacks at all. I don't know what their quarterback issue is going to be. Listen, it is an incredible story out of Alex Smith, but I don't think, what's going on, Jay? I don't think that they're set and sold on Alex Smith. I mean, after the worst injury I could ever say for a quarterback and in his career that almost took his life away, that is a tough dice to gamble. And not to mention, you dealt with Kyle Allen. You don't trust Dwayne Haskins. Washington's going to look for a new quarterback. They're going to have to. But this defense with Chase Young, it's going to get better with Ron Rivera. There is a bright future ahead of him. What poses the question about the Philadelphia Eagles is if Carson Wentz is still going to be their quarterback. Right now, they have a lot of questions and they have a lot of concerns about him. Because here's the thing. Three teams that I think have question marks over their quarterbacks. The Jets, the Eagles, and let me just say the Denver Broncos. Because I don't know if Drew Lock is locked in. No pun intended. But let me just tell you this. John Elway is on his tightest string. Because after winning the Super Bowl and Peyton Manning retired, they have gone through numerous quarterbacks to figure out their problems. Okay, they went through Brock Osweiler, who chased for the money in Houston, and then they became a dumpster fire. He was the most overpaid, worst quarterback I ever seen. Then they go and they gamble on Trevor Siemian, good kid, not strong enough. They go on, they roll the dice on a kid in Memphis named Paxton Lynch. He became the biggest bust for Denver in that pick. Not to mention, you've got Brett Ripien, a really good kid from Boise State, who I don't even think he's the future. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. But then the other thing is, you've got this kid, Drew Lock, who comes from a mediocre program in Missouri. And the SEC, which is very Alabama, LSU dominant, and there are a couple of other teams in the mix, Auburn, so many others. I don't know if Drew Lock is the future of the Denver Broncos. I don't know if he could be capable of playing in this league. Let me just tell you this right now. In the AFC West, you've got 3 dynamic quarterbacks in different franchises. Patrick Mahomes, we already know how great he is, and he's capable of handling his own, and he's got strengths. He's got all sorts of gifts. We know how great he is. Justin Herbert, this kid is unbelievable. Over 20-plus touchdowns total, and at the same time, he's got less amount of picks. The Chargers record, I'll tell you right now, it befuddles me about how it looks because you've got a great kid at quarterback. He makes less amount of mistakes. He's big in size, 235, 6'6", and he's got a hell of a rocket arm, and he is very smart. You know, and you've got a week against Buffalo, and that's going to be an interesting game. But you know what's interesting? Here's a stat. Justin Herbert, under the pressure, his quarterback rating is 100. 100. That's better than Phillip Rivers. That's better than Russell Wilson. I've never seen this kid ever play out of his mind like this. You got him. And then the Raiders. Derek Carr is a Raiders quarterback. He is the Raiders franchise quarterback. And Derek Carr, he's playing the best season I've ever seen him play so far. And outside of Tom Brady, I never seen anybody who has had the best fourth quarter clutch comebacks than Derek Carr has. Don't get me started with Drew Lock and these fourth quarter comebacks. What happened in the first 3 quarters? Because I didn't even get nothing out of Drew Lock. And right now, you got Mahomes, Herbert, Carr. You could flip-flop Herbert and Carr as 2 and 3, and then Drew Lock is going to be the 4th best quarterback in that division. And that division is stacked, man. It's stacked with wide receivers. It's stacked with pass rushers. He's going to get eaten alive. This is one of the things. And for the first 3 quarters, Drew Lock is not even locked in until the 4th quarter. He's not. And everybody's like, well, the 4th quarter has a tendency to I'm not looking for that. Everybody has 4th quarter heroics. We see this with Patrick Mahomes. We see this with Derek Carr. We see this with a lot of quarterbacks. But is 4th quarter magic gonna help you make it in this league? Absolutely not. That's the difference. That's the problem. So I'll make this argument. I feel like that if the Philadelphia Eagles made the rational decision of moving on from Carson Wentz, because I have no idea what the problem is. Is it the quarterback or is it the coach? Because a lot of people will tell me it may be Doug Peterson. He's too soft on Wentz. And maybe that's true. Or maybe Carson's too reckless. And that may be the reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the way that they are and why he's not executing plays and passes. That's why they want to move off him. But I'll make this argument. I'm not saying this is exactly going to happen, but don't brush away the possibility. What if Carson Wentz went to Denver? Denver is mile high. Altitude is difficult. You're in cold weather. And here's the other thing. You're only about maybe few miles from North Dakota, where he went to school at in North Dakota State. And here's what's different about this. Vic Fangio, a defensive coordinator, he knows how to put his boot down. So when he sees a mistake, he's probably going to yell and scream, and he's probably going to choke out Wentz. But as long as you can get him straightened up, buttoned up, this offense could work. Because here's the thing. You're still getting a really good offense with Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and I'm not sure with the running back deal with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. You're going to have to roll the dice on both of them. And you've got a tight end in Noah Fant, who I think is capable of making the offensive plays, and he can block. And you've got a better offensive line. You don't have anybody who is missing executions, who is missing their roles. And I think Denver would be interesting. And John Elway, this is what's interesting. A former quarterback, you would think he'd get the position right. But after the last few years, after Peyton Manning retired, Denver has whiffed on all their quarterbacks. They have whiffed on all their quarterbacks. Brock Osweiler. And I'm saying it's a potential possibility, but Drew Lock, Trevor Siemian, the other quarterback, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco. He's whiffed on all those quarterbacks. But I'll make the argument that I feel like if Philadelphia does one thing or the other, because if they get rid of Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz is going to stay. And they're going to get a coach that's going to help him get out of his reckless mindset. But it is tough. Or you cut ties for both parties' sake, and I think Carson Wentz would fit in Dallas. It would be interesting. And here's another comment. I could see Elway trying to make a move for Dak. That's interesting. That is very interesting, Jason Marshall. That could be. But again, Dak and the Cowboys have to show me the money. That's all they have to do with Dak Prescott. If you say he's the future, pay him. Because you paid Zeke, you paid Amari, you paid Jalen Smith, you're going to have to pay Leighton Vander Esch. You're paying all these guys, but you're not paying your quarterback. What's the problem with that? But that's something I had to get out of my mind because I'm just looking at it right now. I love Carson Wentz, but right now this deal with Philadelphia, I don't know what the hell is going on. But in one of the worst divisions in the NFL, you're not going to make it there. And here's the thing. Denver with Drew Lock, good luck being the number 4 quarterback in the AFC West because Mahomes, can outplay you. You've seen already that Justin Herbert can outplay you. And I'm very sure Derek Carr can outplay Drew Lock because the Raiders this year, I love what the Raiders are doing. They are in your face, both offensively, defensively. The Raiders team is back. And that's why I think Drew Lock is going to have a difficult time against all 3 of those quarterbacks and against all 3 of their pass rushes and their secondaries. I don't think he'll keep up with that. But don't shy away from the fact that if this happens and they get Carson Wentz, maybe that'll be best for both sides. Carson, I think, may be disciplined very differently. And I think Vic Fangio is very capable of getting him out of his recklessness. Coming up next, something, as I've looked at all these quarterbacks and as I've looked at all these teams, there are maybe a few fits. I've already mentioned it with Carson Wentz with Denver. That could be a possibility. But I have something else in mind that I think could be very interesting. That's coming up next. And here's the other thing. Are we even sure Green Bay is as intimidating as Packer fans think they are? I have an argument that I don't think they are. And I'm going to break it down to you right after the break. That's coming up next. So our good folks at Thrive Fantasy, there is a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff. Lots and lots of fantasy matchups. You guys can check out Roto Play, head-to-head matchups. Thrive Fantasy. Here's what's cool about this. You can end up betting on every single sport, every single day, including esports. They have bet lines for everything. You can win up to $15,000 in pool play. Here's how you got to do it. When you go online or you download the app on your phone and you sign up, use promo code SS Network. That's short for Spotlight Sports Network. When you deposit $20 in your first play, Thrive Fantasy promises to match it to $50 in your first play, and guaranteed. And there are a lot of different pool plays. So definitely sign up for Thrive Fantasy. When you go online, do it today. I'm telling you, these pool plays have been so exciting. So definitely check it out. ThriveFantasy.com. That's using promo code SS Network. Once again, promo code SS Network.
What's up, fantasy champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to ThriveFantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's ThriveFantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
By the way, since you checked out the Snake Sports Talk Show merchandise just before coming back here into the break, we've got huge news for you guys. Friday, since it's the best shopping deal all the way around nationwide, we love it. It's Black Friday. We got a Black Friday sale on the network, and we got a Black Friday sale on the show. When you go online to SpotlightSportsNetwork.com and you go into the merchandise section, you'll get 25% off everything. That's hats, that's masks, that's t-shirts. That is also hoodies to keep yourself warm during the cold season. We got 25% off everything starting Black Friday. You don't want to end up missing it. That's the SpotlightSportsNetwork.com/merch. All right. Boy, I've been on fire. I've been on fire tonight. I have absolutely been on fire tonight. And I couldn't have picked a better night to end up explaining it. But so first and foremost, before I get into the next segment here. So I've been watching Green Bay all throughout this year. And listen, let me just tell you something about Green Bay. This is how I feel about it. They are the glamour boys. Okay? They come in with these Bugattis. They feel like the world is so above them. And everything else, they're flashy, they're nice. But here's the difference. When you pick a fight with some of them, they don't know how to fight back. Okay? They'll talk the talk, but they certainly cannot walk it. Aaron Rodgers, listen, this is what I'll defend Aaron Rodgers with this. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a quarterback. Golden boy, golden arm. There's no mistaking that. But this last Sunday against an Indianapolis team who's top 5 in the league, and Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner and a lot of these really good secondaries that Indianapolis has put up, they played a lot of physicality. Here's the problem with Green Bay. Green Bay, they've got a bunch of weapons. They definitely fixed up a lot of things. But the other problem with it is the defense is not the same. The defense hardly ever takes the ball away. They don't like to play physical ball. They don't like the physicality game. So they'll be all big and bad with their offense and Aaron Rodgers leading the way with Devontae Adams, who I think is probably the second, if not third best wide receiver in the league currently. But this defense doesn't help him. This defense is not as flashy. It's not. The second the offense figures that out, they know how to play it against them. And that game against Indianapolis, they had a lead in the first half. They were balling out, and then by the second half, they were shut down by 3 points. And Indianapolis, who is a top 5 defense, pushed Aaron Rodgers and everyone around. And then it came all the way down to the wire where it was overtime. MVS lost the ball, and Rob Blankenship was the hero. And of course, there were messages sent to MVS at the end of that game. But this team, what I'm looking at with the rest of this season, this is the schedule I have left for Green Bay. Because, of course, Green Bay, I think, is going to win out the rest of their games. That's no issue with that. But they are not capable of playing the physical game. Because think about it. After that loss against Indianapolis, these are their next couple of games. They're playing Chicago, they're playing Philadelphia, Detroit, Carolina, Tennessee, and then Chicago again. So at this downstretch, you've got Chicago's defense who knows how to push everybody around. The offense is always questionable. That's kind of the biggest concerns with the Bears. The Bears offense can't generate. But of course, you got a Philadelphia defense who Fletcher Cox knows how to get to the quarterback. And I'm not sure what the offense is going to be like for Philadelphia, but they can get to him. Here's another thing. Tennessee, regardless of how you look at them, their defense is not half bad, but they can play physical ball, especially the offense and Derrick Henry. Green Bay is going to get ran over majority of the time when Derrick Henry's got the ball in his hands. This is going to be an interesting couple of games. I see these being potential wins. Chicago, Philadelphia, I think is going to nail a win. Detroit, Carolina, it's going to be a toss-up between Tennessee, and I don't think they're going to end up beating Chicago at the end of the year. I don't think they will, because Chicago is going to figure them out. The defense is going to be just blasting through that offensive line. And here's the problem with Green Bay's defense. You want no part of Derrick Henry whatsoever. You want no part of Derrick Henry. That's what's going to be the problem with Green Bay. Green Bay is a nice team. They're a real nice team. Matt LaFleur has definitely worked on his offense and with Aaron Rodgers, and that's what he needed. But this defense is not the same. They don't take away. They don't play physicality. And that's what's going to be one of their biggest disadvantages. Last year, they played a tough, physical 49ers defense that was all over them last year. They were all over them in the regular season, and they did it again in the championship. And that was what was the downfall for Aaron Rodgers and for the Packers. Because as I've said here, the Packers led Seattle. They led 21-3. And then the end of the game, it ended at 28-25. How does that happen? How do you let Seattle come all the way back? Because think about it. You let somebody like Russell Wilson get himself open, create space, and throw to his wide receivers no matter who it is. That's what's going to hurt Green Bay in the long run. You don't have a defense that's intimidating. And I'll make this argument. Blake Martinez, he's definitely a big splash for the Giants right now. And Blake Martinez, I couldn't believe they let him walk. I thought he was a capable linebacker. You can say what you want to about Rashawn Gary. I think he's going to be very interesting. But this defense for Green Bay is not that intimidating. It's not that intimidating. And the physicality that's getting tested on them, they're failing at it. This is why that I don't think they're going to be that much of an intimidating team. I really, really don't. All right, time now for the hot press. So we got the first college football playoff rankings so far. And this is one that's very, very interesting. I don't think it's something new for a lot of fans. But right now, the headliners, you got Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. And those are amongst the top 4. And here's what's interesting. You got up-and-coming programs that are looking very interesting. Texas A&M, Florida, and number 9, Georgia. But Georgia sometimes, they either get hot or they get cold very easily. I don't know if that's a Georgia thing because we sometimes see that with the Atlanta Falcons. That's nothing new. Oklahoma now is left number 11. And that's going to be interesting to seeing Lincoln Riley and what he can do in these next couple of weeks. But then you got Iowa State and Cincinnati. Somebody was talking to me about Cincinnati, and Cincinnati, they are not a playoff program. They are not. Don't sell me on this crap with some of these programs. Listen, the pandemic and everything else, it affected the way the schedule has been for college football. And now all these other programs like Cincinnati, Iowa State, Southern Methodist, Memphis, UCF, Houston, Eastern Carolina, you might as well put an asterisk at this year. But you still have the top powerhouses. And all that consists of is Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. Those are the only 4 that I can consider that I think are very much playoff worthy. But don't get me started on this crap about Cincinnati whatsoever. But here's an interesting thing. At number 14, you got BYU and Zach Wilson. He's a heck of a young kid. I can't wait to see what BYU could do, but I don't think they're that competitive enough. I think they might finish the year 7th. I think they'll finish 7th here through the rest of the season. So, of course, the latest news is Bogdan Bogdanovich, the Sacramento Kings, they made an announcement that they were unable to match the offer that the Atlanta Hawks were giving him. 4 years, $72 million was the offer sheet, and the Kings couldn't match that. That's no surprise because think about it. The Kings are coming off fresh of signing De'Aaron Fox to a 5-year max deal contract, which I don't know so much about De'Aaron Fox and what he's capable of. I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good shooter. And I also do think he's a guy that can open up the court. But I got to see a lot more out of De'Aaron Fox before I'm sold on it. But I do like Buddy Hield. I do think he's a real good role player. But, I mean, it's not a surprise to me that they couldn't match it. So the Miami Heat and Bam Adebayo, they agreed to a 5-year max deal, and the max deal is over a total of $195 million. And I'll tell you this right now, Miami's got themselves a new era of Chris Bosh because Bam Adebayo, he's a guy that can definitely get you second chance shots. He's a guy that can block, and he utilizes his size. Now, the question of it is, I mean, Miami's a very competitive team. Since Jimmy Butler joined, this team looked really good. I love Duncan Robinson, and I also do like Tyler Hero. I think they got some real good shooters, and I think this is a young team that's going to be very, very interesting for the next couple of years ahead. But I'll make the argument Bam Adebayo really exceeded expectations at his position. And for a guy with a lot of length, and I think he's going to be a very good defensive player. And I also do think he's also going to be somebody who's going to be a supportive role player when it comes to second chance shots and when it comes to rebounds. But I think they definitely made a splash deal on this one. Good for the Heat and good for the Heat for the next couple of years. So, and then of course, you got here Wisconsin. So Minnesota, here's what's interesting. Minnesota cancels their football game against Wisconsin after positive test for COVID. So this is unreal. And at the same time, it kind of sucks. But we are starting to get cases after cases all throughout late in the year. And I anticipated this. I anticipated that stuff was going to end up popping up. But here's the thing. The cancellation ends the longest uninterrupted series in football, in FBS history between Minnesota and Wisconsin, who have played 113 consecutive games, which dated from 1907 to 2019. That's a heck of a history. That's a heck of a history between these two programs. And it's unfortunate that COVID has forced a lot of these cancellations. But I do hope that people stay safe, and I hope that they get healthy and get better very quickly. But that's a heck of a history. But man, it's unfortunate that it had to break, in that regard. So hopefully things do get better, but I don't anticipate that they won't play again. They definitely will play again, hopefully when all of this clears up. All right, so that was your hot press. All right, so listen, I got to speak out my mind on this one. I've been talking a lot about quarterbacks, and I've been talking a lot about these potentialities. We obviously know the Jets, the Eagles have questions with their quarterbacks. Denver's kind of up in the air about Drew Lock. But there are, and San Francisco, I think, is kind of done with Jimmy G. This is what's going to be interesting for maybe not for the rest of this year, but maybe for the next year or the year after. But I'm looking at this NFL draft, and you've got potentially 6, 7 quarterbacks in this draft. 4, maybe 5 of them that are first-round talents. And there are a lot of teams that I think are going to inquire in their draft picks that they're going to end up taking a quarterback. Right now, you're looking at the New York Jets, who I'm just telling you right now, the Gase is already closed. Adam Gase is done being a head coach in this organization, and it's not helping Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is not getting elevated to the highest of his level, and Sam Darnold, like Wentz, is reckless. He's a linebacker built, but he can't stay healthy on the field. And it's unfortunate because they draft a guy in Mekhi Becton. They needed a tackle, but they're going to need a lot more protection on that line. And guys have to step up because otherwise, look, you can have any offense around him. He'll make it work, but it doesn't work when he's getting pressured and the pocket is collapsing every time. So I feel like best for both parties, they're going to part ways. Gase is going to be gone. Darnold's going to end up going somewhere else. And here's my fits for Sam Darnold. I think the Indianapolis Colts could be a potentiality for Sam Darnold. Listen, what's happening right now, the Colts are going to end up inquiring about a quarterback. They really are, because I don't think they're going to end up, I don't think they're going to settle for long with Phillip Rivers. I mean, look, Phillip Rivers is already getting to the point. He's making too many mistakes. He's not athletic enough. He can't move himself out of the pocket. And that is one of the problems you have with Phillip Rivers. The Colts, I think, would be an ideal destination for a guy like Sam Darnold because here's the pros. He's going to have a healthy offensive line with Quentin Nelson and company because this team has really, really fixed up that offensive line. The unfortunate part is Andrew Luck just got too beaten up and it forced retirement. But I think Darnold can work with that line. He's got Michael Pittman Jr., he's got T.Y. Hilton, he's also got Nyheim Hines, and he's also got Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. So he's got offense. And you could toss up with Jack Doyle in the tight end position. I think they might inquire about a tight end somewhere down the road. But this Indy offense with Frank Reich as a quarterback whisperer, this could work. Indianapolis is only about a quarterback away. They're only a quarterback away from being a competitive team. I thought this team would go 11-5, but right now the defense is great, but this offense is very, very tacky. This is very, very tacky. And I don't think Phillip Rivers is their future, but I do think Sam Darnold could very much work here. One of them is thinking, what's going on, BL? One of them is thinking the Bears. I think the Bears could very much work too. But again, it's how much cold weather can you take? Because you got to have a guy who's capable of throwing the football in cold weather in Chicago. The offensive line needs to get better. And this is where, this is where the front offices really need to address those problems. Here's the other thing. You got Allen Robinson. Who else you got afterward? I mean, Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller, they're going to need another capable number 2 wide receiver. And they're probably going to end up having to work on the run game. But right now, they are not sold on Trubisky, and they're certainly not sold on Nick Foles. And I already said this. Foles is a one-hit wonder. Don't get me started with this Wentz. Don't get me started with this Foles is better than Wentz argument. I'm done with that. He's a one-hit wonder. End of story. That's it. Chicago is not sold on their quarterbacks. They don't want to put Mitch Trubisky back in. I think it's clear. Matt Nagy, I think, is a good coach, but there are some decisions that I think he needs to readjust. But if they get this right and they get their quarterback, and mind you, they could easily make moves to get the top ends of their draft picks and maybe get themselves a good quarterback, a good one who can throw, who can move out of the pocket, and another guy that can create space. That is what this league is all about now. We're seeing this with Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. We're seeing guys move out of the pocket, and Derek Carr. They're moving out of the pocket, they're creating space, and they are getting accurate with their throws. So I'll make that argument. But if they go with Darnold, they need to protect him any way that he can. My other thing is San Francisco. I think San Francisco could be a very interesting team if Darnold's in there. But they do have real good protection. The other thing of it is, I'm hoping their wide receiver core is good. Because right now, I'll tell you this, Emmanuel Sanders is not getting targeted as much as people think think he is in New Orleans. And I don't think he should have left San Francisco, especially with a young team that consists of Deebo Samuel and also consists of Brandon Ayuk. There is potential there with their wide receiver core. And Raheem Mostert is a real good running back. And I think if you got the right quarterback there, because look, Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, these are nice quarterbacks, but I do not think they're the future for this franchise. I think they are capable of winning games, but they're not going to win the big games. Those are your primetime ones. Those are also your playoff ones. Their pressures are going to be so high on their shoulders, they don't know what to do with themselves. I think at this point, Atlanta needs to move off their quarterback. Atlanta's got to move off of Matt Ryan, and they certainly got to move off of their wide receiver, Julio Jones. This is a rebuilding franchise at this point. Because right now, Kyle Shanahan, after that Super Bowl, this team has not been the same. Matt Ryan, his throw is not as accurate. He's getting older, and at the same time, I think you can save some bucks, and I think you can acquire draft picks along with it. Get an overhaul of draft picks for Julio Jones, and I would inquire. I think San Francisco would be a good fit for Matt Ryan because it's a reunion with him and Kyle Shanahan. Ain't nobody that knows him better than Kyle Shanahan does. And I think that would be very interesting because at this point, if you trade him and Jimmy Garoppolo, if you just swap contracts, that just means San Francisco is only eating maybe a little less than what they were with Jimmy G. But Shanahan has worked with Matt Ryan in the past. They got to a Super Bowl, and I think this would be interesting for San Francisco. But that would be my only destination for a guy like Matt Ryan. I don't see him anywhere else. Again, Carson Wentz in Denver. I really, truly think that this could work. Denver, Vic Fangio, he is a guy that knows how to stomp his boot down. And at the same time, Carson Wentz plays reckless. And I think Fangio, because of the type of defensive coordinating coach he is probably going to end up screaming and yelling at Carson Wentz majority of the time, but it's going to force him to get out of his recklessness and I think button up and make better, accurate throws. Because I'm sorry, Drew Lock, but good luck being the number 4 quarterback in your own division. Ask Baker Mayfield how that feels. But right now, You got Lamar Jackson. And here's a point I'll make about Baltimore here in a second, but I think this thing with Denver, it could be a possibility, and I think that this could work. I really, really do think. Now, here's a point I'll make about Baltimore, because the AFC North is very competitive. Pittsburgh, at some point, they'll look for a quarterback. You can't rely on Big Ben for the rest of the years. He's not going to be the same. He's already taken too much hits. He's already taken too much damage. He's not going to last there for long. But it's been a really good ride right now, and that's why I think Pittsburgh is leaning towards that. But I'll also make this. Cleveland has a really good defense. Cleveland's got a good defense, and they've got a great run game. And by the way, they finally got a grown-up. At least they finally got a grown-up in Kevin Stefanski. So that's the interesting part. And Baker Mayfield, they're holding themselves accountable for the draft pick, because right now Baker Mayfield is not playing like a special quarterback. He's not. He's not that special of a quarterback. Okay? I'll make that argument. And then you've got Lamar Jackson, who is great at his feet, but I think Lamar Jackson is predictable now. He's so one-dimensional. He doesn't have an over-the-top receiver. Baltimore did not have any holes in their defense. They did not. Their hole is an over-the-top receiver. They don't have one. Lamar Jackson is overly relying on Mark Andrews to saving the day, and he's overly reliant on Marquise Brown, who I think he's a real good kid, but he's not a number one. Look at what the Raiders are doing with Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow, and Henry Ruggs. Okay, Aguilar has the size and length that he can make over-the-top plays. So does Tyrell Williams. But that leaves these defenses confused to where they're going to double-team him, and then that leaves Henry Ruggs open. That is something that I think Baltimore needs to inquire about. Because if you don't have an over-the-top wide receiver, Lamar Jackson's going to be predictable. He's going to be predictable. And what is the one thing that defense is going to catch on? He can't throw the football. He's going to run majority of the time. So we need to stop the run game. We need to push him out. We need to force him out. And because we need to force him to throw. We need to force him to make mistakes. Listen, forget about the monsoon, but New England played this right. New England played it greatly against Lamar. I mean, the Dolphins right now, there are question marks, but I think they're going to be fine with Tua. The Bills, I already know, are fine with Josh Allen. The Chargers are fine with Justin Herbert. I mean, he's playing out of his mind in his rookie year. The Chiefs are fine with Patrick Mahomes. The Raiders are fine with Derek Carr. But I think at some point, I mean, look, Green Bay's already got a quarterback. They got Jordan Love in the draft. They're not going to be worried about quarterback in the next 2 years. They're not. They've got one. Tampa Bay, I think, needs to inquire about a quarterback, but it's going to be very interesting to see how they do it. But out of the rest, Russell Wilson, he's fine with Seattle. Minnesota, I think I can inquire. They're going to need to look at a quarterback. This is too good of an offensive powerhouse that Kirk Cousins is playing the way that he is. And Kirk Cousins, he's making all the most money. He's making retirement money. And at this point, he is not playing like a true quarterback should. And he's got Adam Thielen. He's got a big splash in Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook is playing really good. They need a quarterback. I think they need a quarterback. Because at this point, you've got to get this offense to just march down the field. And I do not think Kirk Cousins is capable of doing that. I do not believe he's capable of doing that. Detroit is going to look for a quarterback. Right now, Matthew Stafford, with the amount of injuries that he's suffered, they're going to move off him. And they've got the top 5 picks in the draft. And they're either going to inquire about Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Those would probably be the only 2 quarterbacks they could settle with. Good luck trying to make a gamble on Trevor Lawrence. Now, if they lose more games, but I very much doubt that. They're not going to lose more games than the Jets already have. But if you're lucky enough, if you get Justin Fields or if you get Trey Lance, that's going to be an interesting team for the next couple of years. But that is where they need to protect their franchise quarterback, and they need to be better at defense. They need to be much better at defense. This has been a sloppy team this year. Here's the thing. Cincinnati's not going to look for a quarterback. They got Joe Burrow. But here's the problem. This is what I worry about Joe Burrow. He does not have support on that offensive line. A torn ACL, a torn MCL, and more structural tears, that scares me. And I love this kid. I think he's got a lot of potential in this league. But this offensive line for Cincinnati is so disappointing. And that's the one I would be ripping the front office for. Because you have your franchise quarterback. This is a kid who could potentially be better, but it's unfortunate that he is in a bad franchise in Cincinnati. It's unfortunate. But this is where they have to make those adjustments. I don't know if Zach Taylor can coach. I don't even know if he's capable of the job. But this scares me. This is what I worry about with Joe Burrow. And I said this at the beginning of the year, but it's not looking good from there. It's not. I know Arizona is fine with Kyler Murray. They love Kyler Murray. They had Josh Rosen at one point. They moved off the quarterback. They saw a lot of those mistakes, and they're fine with Kyler Murray. And I think this thing with Cliff Kingsbury is going to be very interesting. But at some point, this team is going to click. It's going to end up clicking at high levels. But let's just see how long it lasts. Because right now, I'm loving Kyler Murray and what I'm seeing from him this year. I think Arizona is going to be fine with their quarterback. But I think that's just about it. Saints at some point are going to be needing to look for a quarterback. Now, listen, Taysom Hill was really impressive this past week. He was really impressive. He ran, he threw. I didn't expect him to do that, but let's just see what the rest of the weeks are going to pan out. Because if Taysom Hill is capable of winning those games and playing the way that he is, like he did this last week, maybe New Orleans saved themselves the future of their franchise. Maybe they did. And I think that's what's going to be interesting about New Orleans, but I cannot make that assumption yet until we find out what the next couple of weeks are going to bring. But hey, that was impressive. That was very, very impressive. So that's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's what I got off the top of my mind. I think this is going to be very, very interesting. 2020 has shown a lot of different truths, and I think right now it's been showing the truths of their quarterbacks. The Chargers, Chiefs, Bills, Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Raiders, so many teams right now. I think 7, if not 8 of them have their quarterbacks. The rest of them now, I think, are moving off because of due to injury, due to inconsistencies, and it just doesn't work. And I'd be very, very interested to see what's going to happen with Carson Wentz at some point. This will be very interesting. So, thank you so much for joining me here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. I really do appreciate it. One last time, because we have a big deal coming up, 25% off on all the merchandises when you go on to spotlightsportsnetwork.com/merch. Check it out. So there you have it, folks. We've got our Black Friday sale, 25% off t-shirts, hats, masks, hoodies for the wintertime to keep you guys yourselves warm through this cold season. We've got it all under the spotlightsportsnetwork.com/merch. And definitely rep up your favorite show on the network. That's the Snake Sports Talk Show. Really do appreciate it. Also, when you go online to Thrive Fantasy, When you download the app today and sign up, use promo code SS Network. That's Spotlight Sports Network for short. When you deposit $20 into your first play, Thrive Fantasy promises they're going to match it to $50 in your first pool play. That's Roto. That's head-to-head matchups, and you can win up to $15,000 on every single pool play there is. That's also including esports. So all your sports every single day. Go to thrivefantasy.com. Use promo code SS Network. I really do appreciate it, guys. Hope to see you guys on Saturday. I'm going to have a lot to talk about, but have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving. I hope all of you guys stay safe, healthy, and enjoy the time that you got with your friends and family. This is a time of appreciation. I know I am. I can't wait for that big time Thanksgiving dinner, and I cannot wait to eat that bird. But I really do appreciate you guys hopping on. Have a great night, and I can't wait to see you guys Saturday. Take care.